Hello guys and welcome to my week 3 coverage of my VDL VGC Draft League. This time I'm facing Ted's RS Volcanions. Before I talk about the prepping process and the match itself, I want to talk about the transactions that I made since last week. I traded my Dragon for Mr. Mangalar and my Mesprit for Como. Now, the reason that I did this is because I wanted a better dragon type on my team. Dragon just wasn't pulling its weight like it was pulling for my friend Mega last season. Because of mods like, now I have like mods there like Gorguys that are more reliable. Well, not more reliable, but also slow, bulky physical attackers. Unfortunately, because of the tiers, I had to drop my Mesprit to make space for combo. Mesprit was pretty decent, but I needed to trade something, and tier 3 had a lot of decent psychic types to replace it with, and as such I got Mr. Mime Galar. Jinx was also in the tier, but I got Mr. Mime Galar primarily because of Ice Shard options. As well as Lovely Kiss isn't that important when I have Misty Terrain set up on my draft. Now, my opponent has a pretty scary draft with Gengar, Cresselia, Colossal, Noivern, Scizor, Tangrowth, Clawitzer, Licki, Machamp, Rhydon, and Dedenne. Gengar is... Thankfully, he has the wrong Dynamax and Gigantamax. I would rather play a Gigantamax Gengar than Dynamax, and a Dynamax Colossal than Gigantamax, so that's pretty nice. Unfortunately, from what I heard from him, he actually wanted my Gigantamax Grimmsnarl that my friend snagged before him when I took over, and then later I took over the draft. Now the main stuff that I'm seeing is, okay, Gengar can be scary, like my best two mons are both weak to poison, so I had to watch out for the Gengar. Cresselia is a pain for me to deal with because my only like dark type doesn't always want to be offensive or even run dark type moves. Colossal is a really big threat together with Clawitzer, and I had to prep accordingly to not get overwhelmed by them. Thankfully it isn't G-Max Call, so I don't have to worry about the Volcalyph. Noivern isn't really a threat, but it can be annoying for me to deal with because of the Tailwind support, because of Taunt, because I can hit a lot of my mons fairly hard. Scizor can be scary, it could have like the wing beat to hit combo, but my Zapdos should be able to just wall it, and it doesn't kill my Fini. It does a lot of damage with an Adamant Life or Bullet Punch, so I had to watch out for it. Tangrowth is more than likely going to be a bootlegged Amoonguss type set with Rage Powder and Sleep Powder and some other moves, but it could potentially be some sort of offensive Tangrowth to deal with my Fini that way, with Sunny Day support from mons like Gengar and Cresselia. Clawitzer is the enabler for Cole. I'm not really that afraid of that mon alone. It could maybe run like the Rain Pulse to get grass coverage after max overgrowth from Cole, or like to hit my combo with a fairy type move in my Misty Terrain. The Licki is really bulky and really annoying, but it's not that strong. I feel pretty confident in being able to play around it to beat it, but it could, if I'm going to lose to Ted, Licki is one of the mons more likely for me to lose to because of how solid it is. A champ is really unfortunate this week for Ted. My best one is a fairy type, and it blocks both Flame Orb from activating if it wants to be the Guts offensive set, and it blocks Confusion from Dynamic Punch at the same time. Rhydon is annoying. I don't see myself losing to it, but it could maybe do something. Kinda funny that I'm facing an offensive rock type Maxter this week plus Lightning Rod, which I did last week as well for Zapdos. And the Denny, I actually think it's really solid against me. It hits Feeny, it walls Zapdos and hits it pretty hard. It hits Grimmsnarl, it hits Como. It's walled by Mudsail, but the rest of the mons it can hit fairly hard as well. Now, going into what I think about my own mons. I think Feeny and Grimmsnarl are absolutely amazing. Something that my opponent struggles against. Something that my opponent struggles with is offensive fairy types. His only fairy resists are Gengar, Colossal, and Scizor. And both of my fairy types have secondary stab options to get around their resistance to fairy, so I think Feeny and Grimmsnarl are fantastic offensively against this guy. I think Zapdos is pretty solid defensively. It's not the best offensively. I don't really hit much with electric flying, but it walls stuff like Scizor. It can deal with stuff like Gengar, and depending on the set I actually end up bringing, I could maybe Dynamax it, or I can use it to get good board positioning with U-turn or Volt Switch. Yeah, it's not the best at breaking, but it's really solid defensively. My Drifloon is actually pretty solid here to deal with the more fast mode the opponent can go with stuff like Gengar, like Scizor, like Noivern. Especially when my Feeny is as great as it is. In this game I'm 100% bringing Feeny, so Drifloon is actually pretty solid because of that. In addition, I can do stuff like Clear Smog to self-activate Weakness Policy on one of my fairy types. Because Grimmsnarl is also amazing offensively, I don't even need to bring Feeny to set up Misty Terrain. I can also use Max Fairy from my Grimmsnarl to set up the terrain so that my Drifloon can do stuff. Mudsail checks a lot of key threats like Gengar, like Noivern, like Colossal, but it's walled pretty hard by monsters like Cresselia and Time Growth, so it's not going to sweep him, but it checks a lot of his mons anyways, so I think it's still really solid. Coma has a really funny typing against Colossal. It walls both of its stabs because of fighting Dragon, and it walls the main coverage move that Cole will run, which is grass coverage for my Mudsail and Feeny. It walls that too. It doesn't have a resist to both Dragon and fighting at the same time, so it's pretty annoying offensively as well. And yeah, I think these are amazing. Also, Como can either be immune to Bullet Punch, Sludge Bomb, and Shadow Ball from Scizor and Gengar, or I can make it immune to Rage Powder and Sleep Powder from Time Growth. The mons in the F tier are they're not terrible, but they're harder to justify actually bringing, and I can't really slap them on my prep either. I have to pretty much start off with them and then use my great and amazing mons to prep around them to make them work. Gorga Small and Centiskorch, they're not good. Centiskorch doesn't really check anything. I guess I guess it can check like Scizor, but not really because it can just run flying coverage. It does get Scald to hit Colossal, but he can just go for max Rockfall and Alchemy anyways, so it's not good. Goga Small, if I'm going to bring a Gogas form, I'm going to bring Goga Super, so there's no point in bringing Gogas Small. It has a solid speeder, it outspeeds Crescent Down, which isn't that great, honestly. It doesn't have a base 90 he only has base 85, so I only need Tapu Fini and Como to outspeed everything outside the super fast ones that I can't outspeed anyways. So yeah, let's get into the prep. I'm bringing a weakness policy, Ice Beam, Dual Stab Protect, Tapu Fini. I'm bringing a more offensive, disruptive Grimmsnarl with Trick Eject button. This is to deal with these Colossal strats. It's also a nice thing to have in the back in case I underestimate his Dynamax threats and I have to have something to deal with it in the back. Unfortunately, because I'm running Sucker Punch for Gengar, I can't touch the Cresselia without Gigantamaxing it, but that shouldn't be a problem. Gigantamax Grimmsnarl is pretty solid in this matchup anyways. I'm bringing a Misty Seed, pretty standard Balloony with Tailwind, Ally Switch, Clay Smog and Shadow Ball. Clay Smog is both there to activate my weakness policy in Fini, but also to remove potentially a Colossal boost or a Likey boost or whatever. It's just a nice thing to have. Shadow Ball is just there for chip. I get 2 kills Gengar. What's cool with Drifloon is that it's actually surprisingly bulky. It can take a Adamant Life Orb Bullet Punch from Scizor and a timid Shadow Ball from Gengar with the special defense boost. I'm bringing Seek finally from the bench with safety goggles, 3 attacks detect. I'm running Wall Switch as my electric stab this week because electric isn't that good this matchup, but it's nice to have. It gives me good board positioning and I can use it as a secondary way to proc my weakness policy on Fini. Safety goggles is there because I can't protect my Zapdos from Sleep Powder with Misty Terrain. I was considering the Lumberry so that I could deal with confusion or poison potentially, but I like the option of safety goggles to ignore Rage Powder as well, so that he can't stop me self-fold switching to activate my weakness policy. There's not much more to say about it, it's just a nice defensive piece that I can use to position myself with. I'm bringing Komode, the Como, with a Sash Taunt 3 attack set. This is more meant to be an annoying anti-lead set with that just attacks and taunts and dies and then I get offensive momentum. I'm running Overcoat as the ability to be immune to Rage Powder, most importantly, so that I can taunt. For example, if it's Tangrowth plus Cresselia, I can taunt the Cress without worrying about Rage Powder. I'm running Flamethrower to hit Scizor and Body Press as the fighting stab to hit potentially a Likey. And last but not least, I'm bringing Mudsdale Hast. This one isn't amazing, but it's still a really solid one to bring. Like, let's say I lose horribly one of the games, I have the option of changing my game plan altogether and bringing Mudsdale for the next game. For this matchup, I'm bringing actually a pretty I'm bringing a really fast Mudsdale this week to be able to outspeed Gengar in Tailwind. Because I'm not bringing a tricky mode, I might as well just make it fast and outspeed stuff. There's not a lot more to say about it. Rock Slide hits Noivern and Lash Out hits Cresselia. That's really as relate. Now let's get into the game itself. Skip a little bit. Okay, so at team preview I'm noticing a few things. The main thing is he's not bringing any fast stuff, so Drifloon isn't as good as I wanted it to be because he didn't bring any of its fast mons like Gengar and Noivern. So I just outspeed everything naturally anyways. The other thing I'm noticing is he likely has 2 main modes. I'm guessing at least he has the cold mode and he likely has another mode. Maybe with like maybe either some offensive time growth or Licki to deal with my Feeny. And Cresselia, I'm hoping that it's the supportive set, but a setup set with like Cold Mine, Stored Power or Cosmic Power. I'm not sure if it gets Cosmic Power or not, but because I didn't think of that set before after I prepped and I was too lazy to change anything about the prep. That set can actually put in a lot of work against me, but I still have ways to deal with it, like trick a jack button, I can tone it, I can get Gigantamax with Grimmsnarl, I have options to beat it, so I'm not a lot worried, but it's still something that I can struggle with. In addition, my muscle isn't running that much attack this week, so I can't. Muzzle isn't as good here because, well, it's not terrible, but Clowitzer can force it out potentially, and Cresselia walls it. I have no idea what my champ is trying to do. I have no idea. I did not expect him to actually bring that one. The other 5 I expected. So I'm not sure what to expect this match, so I want to be able to have a safe lead where even if I lead badly against him, I can still play around the lead. So I end up going with Como Tapu Fini. Now I'm considering either Grimmsnarl or Mudsail. Mudsail is actually pretty solid in this matchup with body pressing dash out, but I don't have any ways to boost my Mudsail without max knuckling. I have Mudsail and Grimmsnarl in the first 2 slots to at least make the opponent expect swagger and respect that strat from me. Mudsail is mostly here for a secondary option if I lose horribly, and to force my opponent to respect the Mudsail at team preview. I'm not really expecting me to bring it unless I struggle. Fini is really effective at winning this week, so I'm kind of putting all my oranges in the basket on Fini. But if I have to, I can use my Mudsail instead. He leads my champ Likey. I'm not sure what to expect from those 2. I know that he has some way of dealing with my Tapu Fini because of how much of a threat my Fini is. This is why I'm running body press on my combo as well, because while Likey isn't a standout threat, it can actually be pretty scary if you let it set up and be annoying because of how bulky it is and its decent attacking stats and its great coverage options. So I'm just content with body pressing it for chip because I need to start chipping it early on to set up for my Fini late game. I end up protecting with Fini. I don't agree with the protect on Fini. In retrospect, I should have switched in my Zapdos instead if I was expecting him to target my Fini. But I didn't want to waste resources just yet. I wanted to have as much HP as possible, so I didn't want to switch my Zapdos hard in. I protect with the Vine as said. And my champ is Scarf Coaching. Okay, sure, why not? When I was playing, I didn't actually pay attention to the speed order, so I didn't think that he would be Scarf Machamp. But now that I've analyzed the game afterwards, I realized, yeah, it's Scarf Machamp, but that means that he isn't Scarf Clowitzer for game 2, so I can guarantee Trick Eject Button the call in the game 2. Likey is a problem. It's a big problem. It was Fini and Zapdos, and I have no normal resist. So how do I deal with this thing? I Trick Eject Button it. But I can't just switch my Greensword in either. I have to sack either my combo or Zapdos to get offensive momentum to position in my Greensword. But after that I can just Trick Eject Button it and I should be fine. Combo dies. And yeah, this is the position I wanted because it gives me my Greensword in so that I can check Trick Eject Button it so that I don't lose immediately. I didn't bring steel coverage on my mud sail, so if I had brought that instead, I might have just lost to this strategy if it wasn't for my Trick Eject Button Grimstar. So at this point it's completely free for me to just Trick Eject Button and Wall Switch and just remove this threat immediately. I was considering Dynamaxing, but I get more out of my Dynamax if I just wait out his Dynamax. Instead of Wall Switching, I clicked Detect for whatever reason. I think this was most likely because I was scared of some weird speedy Licky that would outspeed my Zapdos after the max strike. Because I wanted to settle for the Sucker Punch the following turn guaranteed, or let my Greensword die and get my Fina in. Either way, in case he is a speedy Licky, this was a more safe play to make. It's not perfect though, and we'll see next turn why this turn wasn't that well put out. He crits my Zapdos through my Detect, that's really annoying because I don't have any recovery options for my Zapdos. And I'm running a really bulky Zapdos, so the more damage I take, the less damage it can take later in the game. Sucker Punch and Wall Switch is completely free here. Even if he goes for Ally Switch, I'm still able to Wall Switch. Why I don't agree with my Detect play is now I'm at -2 speed with my Zapdos instead. So if I hadn't better at -1 speed, I would have been in big trouble this turn as well. But he is more than likely like max HP, max attack with minimal speed investment, so I am able to force it out by activating its eject button. I tried to trick the Cresselia because I want information for game 2 to see what item it has, but I have an AV, so I'm not able to actually trick anything. So what I end up doing, because Cresselia is the last hurdle I have to remove for my Fini to clean up late game, I actually go Gigantamax my Brimstone to be able to break through the Cresselia immediately. Cresselia is so bulky that I can't even kill it with my Fini unless I activate my weakness policy. Even then, I don't think I even OHKO it with a max move. In addition to breaking past Cresselia, he has no resistance to both Dark and Fairy. His only Dark resist is weak to Fairy, so this is fairly safe on my part. Might have been greedy, but I felt pretty confident in Dynamaxing my Gigantamaxing my Grimmsnarl. I also wanted to Gigantamax my Grimstar at least once this season, because I picked it as a free Gigantamax pick, not because I was planning on Gigantamaxing it a lot, but because I wanted Grimstar, the base form. He has no way to touch my Feeny now that he has wasted his Dynamax on Likey. And at this point I'm in a really good position to just G-Max Snooze and Scold. Now I'm trying to figure out what's the smartest way of targeting the opponent because of potentially ally switch. But I just figure out that, okay, let's say you ally switch. At worst, I then get to Scold the Crest and get off a decent chunk, while G-Max losing the call and also doing a good chunk. Or like the worst case scenario is protect an ally switch and I get a Scold off and I don't get a lot with G-Max Snooze. But he just icy wins, which is, yeah, that's completely fine. I don't really care about call as long as I keep my Feeny healthy. I win with my Feeny guaranteed if I keep it healthy against Colossal. Another reason I ended up Gigantamaxing my Grimstar is because of how bulky it is. I have a decent amount of bulk invested into Grimstar this week, and a decent amount of attack as well. And with AV, I'm just really hard to take down. I think it's really funny how he used his AV and Dynamax to be a pain for me to break down, and now I took his AV and now I Gigantamax, and yeah, the tables have turned, so to say. Colossal gets O-called, and Machamp also gets O-called by Max Starfall. I'm not completely sure why he went Machamp first and not Likey. I suppose this way he stalls out my last turn of Gigantamax and maybe can do something with Likey. So at this point I have this basically locked up because of my Gigantamax Grimstar, well, just my Grimstar. And yeah, it's a pretty safe way to just Spirit Break. And, well, protect. I don't agree with me switching out into Zapdos this turn, but the Power Whip is really obvious from his part. It's his only way of getting a kill on Feeny. So I just want to save. I want to be able to save as much differential as possible because of how I started with a 0-2 loss the first week and then made it even. Now I want to be able to win as hard as possible to go plus. Sucker Punch takes it out. In case it didn't actually take it out, I didn't want Ball Switch to fail to knock out the Likey. So I went for Sucker Punch, also his AV, so Sucker Punch is basically guaranteed against him. And I win game 1 3-0. So it looks pretty good for me going into game 2. I feel really confident in my 4 months. But I think I can change up the order potentially. Feeny Comma isn't the best. Like if it leads Call, it can do a lot of damage to my Feeny. I figured game 1, if it leads that, he'll switch it out against 2 monsters that evolves. I can check Colossal well. So now I lead my main anti-lead mode with both monsters that can fuck over a potential lead on the opponent's part. I'm confident in that these 4 are the correct 4 monsters to bring in this matchup, so it just depends what I want to lead. So game 2, I don't think I think the opponent will change up his lead somewhat. Likey was really solid against me, but I dealt with it really well as well. He leads with Clovis or Colossal. This was the main mode that I was worried about when prepping. So I was both scared but also happy because this was the main lead that I wanted Trick a Jack button for. I make a hard read this turn 1. I'm expecting him to predict my Crick into Colossal to waste his Dynamax, so I want a hard read, protect plus attack to trigger my Jack button so that he can safely go for Aqua Jet and Dynamax the following turn, so I fake out Clanging Scales instead. And the Dynamax is Colossal. Ah, great. Even then, I'm still in a decent position. Because, like, let's say he targets my Groomstar and triggers my Jack button. Cool, I get free momentum into my Feeny. And after the Clanging Scales chip is in range of a Max Geyser from my Feeny. Okay, so I double crit him turn 1, that's great. I feel terrible for the crit on Clowitzer especially, because this puts his Clowitzer in range of Sucker Punch from my Grimmsnarl. Unfortunately for him, I feel really bad for that turn 1, a double crit with Clanging Scales. But that's my girl Komodo showing off the first week I'm bringing her, which is nice. Because Clowitzer has it's like 1 point slower than Grimmsnarl, I guaranteed can Sucker Punch it to block the Aqua Jet into Colossal. If it wasn't for that crit, I wouldn't be able to Sucker Punch and kill it like that. So this game might have been completely different had I not crit it turn 1. At this point, I'm in a really good position. I basically wasted his Dynamax, and I have Feeny in the back. I don't have to deal with Dynamax Licki, which I think is the best game plan for him to go with against me, at least against my Feeny. Yeah, I'm going to pick the Licki this game as well. Why not? Now, so what this does is making me take less damage. Because of me forcing him to switch, he can't attack this turn. Also, I thought it would be funny to take the AV again. Komodo is actually amazing. It just chunks and chunks and puts stuff in range of other attacks. I'm really happy with how Komodo did this week. He's forced to switch out into his last one. This also gives me information because the Wizard is dead, so I know 100% which 4 mons he has. Now I know that he has Licki in the back. Because of the AV I took, I take really little from that hit. That's really funny actually. And yeah, so at this point, if I can stall out the Sun turns before it Dynamax my Feeny, I can win this pretty easily. At the same time, I don't even need a Dynamax to win with Feeny, so I Gigantamax my Grimmsnarl this game as well. I'm trying to predict Ally Switch this turn, but I figure, okay, let's say you Ally Switch. Cool, I take out Colossal, and then you don't do anything with Cresselia. I taunted the Cresselia because I know that it's a Colby Berry, so it can't be Mental Herb. At this point, I just want to punch as many holes as possible with my Grimmsnarl, and my Feeny should be able to just clean up. He protects with Colossal. I'm not exactly sure why, but this works out fine for me. It means my combo gets to live another day. He is the Colberberry, as we saw from the last game. It still does a really nice 30-40% to it, which means that the following turn, the next hit will do like 60-80. Como lives the Icy Wind as well. I have no idea why my Focus Sash lead was able to take 4 hits, but that's cool. Now he can't go for ally switch this turn. Now the play I should have made with Como was just to body press a call and get a double kill. For some reason I played this safe. I should have just gotten the double kill and then just won 4-0. I could have won this 4-0 really easily, but I made a really unnecessary play by switching in my Zapdos. I think this was in case Crusader somehow lived this hit. Then, like, if it had Psychic or something and ended up outspeeding my -1 combo, it could have killed my combo. And at that point, it's better to sack my Zapdos than sack my combo, because he has 2 months weak to combo now, because I removed the Cresselia. So at this point I have this game locked up with Feeny and my combo in the back, pretty much guaranteed. So I just go for a Hurricane and a G-Max Snooze. It's pretty safe. Will I hit the first Hurricane of my season? Let's see. Can he hit his Hurricane? He cannot. Let's go. That's great. That's a great omen for the rest of the season to come. That I wasn't able to hit my first Hurricane. Heatwave does... Yeah, so what I should have done this turn, instead of going for G-Max Snooze, I should have gone for a G-Max, Max Fury move to set up the Missile Terrain so that he couldn't burn me in the first place. That's all on me for allowing him to burn me. So I don't hold that against my opponent at all. That's completely on me for being burned. And yeah, at this point I have this basically locked up with my 2 months in the back. Unfortunately, because of the burn, I'm not able to KO the Likey with Grimmsnarl, so I have to double into it. The reason that I'm doubling into Likey like this is because it's AV, so it's more than likely not willing to protect. So I don't have to worry about like attacking Colossal and it protecting and wasting my turn. I dodged the Heat Wave. That sucks for the opponent for differential. It didn't matter. It didn't matter for a win, but it kinda sucks for the kills and for the differentials. I win this guaranteed with Feeny, and I go with Como instead. I thought it would be more funny to win without actually bringing Feeny out on the field, when Feeny is the largest threat to my opponent, as well as Body Press plus Wall Switch KOing the Colossal anyways. It manages to live the Body Press, and yep, it's weakness policy as we expected, but Wall Switch is able to take it down from there. Now, while I did get pretty lucky that game too, I still think it was a pretty great set. That turn 1 game 2 really sucked though, since it made the game a lot easier for me to win guaranteed. Good games to my opponent Ted, and good luck to you for the rest of the season.